Thank you for joining the webinar. We shall wait for a couple of minutes for other participants to join in. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Mona Lisa Bhagat, and I am a manager with RiskPro India. I would like to give you a brief overview of RiskPro India Ventures Private Limited. RiskPro India is a risk management and compliance consulting firm, and we are in this business for more than 10 years. We have served more than 525 clients, which includes international clients from USA, UAE, Europe, etc. Our main head office is in Mumbai, and we have a presence in 7 other cities. We are a team member of 65 plus, having 10 plus strategic partners. Our main 5 business verticals are risk advisory, IT advisory, training, technology, and recruitment. In risk advisory, we serve our clients with internal audits, internal financial controls, branch audits, legal compliance audits, SOPs, and many more. In IT advisory, we help our clients for GDPR compliance, SSA 18, various IT reviews and audits, HIPAA 21 CFR Part 11, and many other such services. In training, we provide online and classroom training for topics like enterprise risk management, risk assessment and mitigation, anti-bribery and corruption, and many more. In technology, we have our in-house software, which is a third-party risk management software, and through our technology partners, we help the clients with internal audit software, risk management software, legal compliance software. In recruitment, we provide full-time and part-time risk and audit professionals and virtual risk managers. Today's webinar is for 60 minutes, out of which 10 to 15 minutes will be for question and answers. During this webinar, all the participants will be on mute mode, that is listen only mode. If any participant would like to ask any questions, would request them to write it in the questions tab. If any participant is facing any issue of unable to hear the speaker or unable to see the presentation, would request them to re-log in. And if the issue continues, would request them to write it in the questions tab. The speaker for today's webinar is Mr. Pranation. I would now like to hand it over to him.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much, Mona Lisa. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Let me just start up the presentation. Yeah. Please let me know if you can see my screen,
Yes,
then I can
the
proceed.
presentation. We can
Perfect.
see the presentation. Thanks.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today's topic is called Beyond the Manifesto: Demystifying Agile Organizations. I'm Pranishan, and I have worked with multinational banks over the past 6 to 7 years, and I have worked in this agile space quite a lot. So we've all heard this buzzword agile that's come up in the industry, but what exactly does it entail? And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. More than just the trend, more than just the buzzword, the hope for today's session is that you will be able to actually derive some insights and maybe apply to your own businesses or your own organization. Okay, so if you've been catching up on the news lately, it is almost impossible to ignore that agile has taken over the market. Every headline that you read will have something to do with how a company, whether it's something as big as Amazon or it's a small scale startup or even abroad or India, is using agile and practices in agile to take their business ventures to new heights. So what is the secret sauce and what is agile? Before we look into what agile is, let's take a look at how some of the traditional practices are that take place in today's organizations. So in traditional organizations, now this is a oversimplification, yes, but just to understand the basics of how most organizations work today. Any company takes instructions, whether that's from a customer for product-driven companies or whether it's market research. They take the instructions, they then go on to perform their work, which is manufacture the product, develop the software, and then at the end of it, they deliver the finished product. In context of software development companies, because agile came in the world of software development, so in the context of software development companies, this work happens across various phases, which may look like something like this. So discovery, the first phase, is the one where your client interactions happen, where you get the requirement on what the product requirement is. Or sometimes that can, even if it's a new product that's being launched by the company, that can be the market research that happens into what is the requirement. After which, the design, the coding or manufacturing, the testing or quality assurance, and the deployment, all of this happens internally within the organization. And then it's finally handed over to the customer or it's launched in the market. And of course, there is a post servicing or maintenance that is involved. These phases almost happen one after the other. And if you imagine it to look like how it's shown on the screen, it almost looks like a waterfall, which is why it's called the waterfall model. So most traditional organizations today, currently, whether they are software development companies or they are product companies, they follow this waterfall model of working. Or it's also called the Big Bang approach, where you take the requirements, then you go through this long process, and then at the end of it, you deliver something to your client. Let's also take a look at how teams are organized within these traditional organizations. Any product development company, especially in software terms, has developers. Then they have testers who maintain the quality, they have quality assurance. Obviously, every product is based in a certain domain, so you have business analysts of that domain. Then you have a team lead, you have specialists, you have data architects, you have other people who support the infrastructure, you have a production support team, and all of this usually is headed by a project manager. Now that's starting to look like a real crowd. It's a big team. And the only thing worse than a big team is a big team with interdependencies. Now, I'm sure most of us have either worked in an organization like this or still continue working in one, which is not necessarily a negative thing. It's just the way traditional organizations have been set up so far. But these usually lead to bottlenecks. A lot of interdependencies. The skill levels are 1:1 in the sense that certain people have only certain skills, and that becomes hard to deal with when they are absent. Whether if you have attrition and your people leave, you don't have the required skill sets, or if someone's on extended periods of leaves or sabbaticals. So this is something that is seen in traditional teams. Now, when you combine this with the waterfall way of working, you hit certain limitations. Most of the limitations that are observed are slower delivery. You cannot adopt to changing requirements because your client is, if you think about it, after the discovery phase, where you're taking requirements from the client, you're not inviting them at any stage of your process that is completely internal, and they directly see a finished product. Now, best case scenario, you develop what they wanted. The worst case scenario is that is not what they were expecting. Which is why if your customer gives you some sort of suggestions and if that comes later in your cycle, it's very hard to adapt to that process. Or if you have to adapt because if it's a deal breaker, then it happens at a very high cost because it involves a lot of rework. Overall, this hassle leads to customer dissatisfaction. And the worst limitation is what is every business's fear is losing out to the competition. Now, this is the very problem statement that Agile hopes to solve. Let's look at the word Agile in English language to start with. What does Agile mean? I usually, whenever I conduct this workshop, this is my favorite slide because I just ask people to think about this wildcat when you need to remember what Agile is. Because quite simply, Agile means to be able to move quickly and easily. And essentially, in the software development or in a project management sense, Agile was made just for that, to be able to move quicker, be more dynamic, and do it in an easy way. Get rid of all the complexities that are there in traditional practices. Now, a little history on how Agile came about. In 2001, a bunch of 17 software engineers met at Snowbird, Utah, in the United States of America, essentially to just come up with a better way to develop software. All of them had faced, what are the limitations that we just saw of the traditional practices, and they realized that there has to be a better principle or there need to be better guidelines to develop software, which will be able to overcome these challenges and more. Together, they published what is called the Agile Manifesto. And yes, that's the namesake word manifesto from my title, Beyond the Manifesto, and you will see why. But first, so these 17 signatories, what they published is that they wanted to uncover better ways of developing software. They said, we are going to practice this ourselves, and we hope to pass this on to the developers all around the world. They had 4 very simple values. They said that our software development process should focus more on individuals and interactions and not on so much on the complex processes and tools. We should be focused on working software, not get stuck in unnecessary documentation. There should be better customer collaboration, and you should spend less time on bureaucratic negotiations and contract negotiations. And lastly, and more importantly, you should be able to respond to change instead of just sticking to a plan, which is essentially seen in the waterfall model that I just described. Now, these developers, they don't say that the things on the right don't matter at all. Obviously, you still have documentation, you will still have processes, and you will still have plans. But you should always focus, you should give more value to what they have highlighted on the left. Now, this is where we start going beyond the manifesto. The Agile Manifesto was really just a document that was published. But unless they are now somehow defining how do you make those changes, what does that mean to an organization or me individually as a developer or a manager or whatever level that I'm at? I mean, yeah, sure, you've published a document, but what are the changes that I can bring about to be more agile, right? Broadly speaking, Agile requires any team to make changes in three areas. One is the people pillar, one is process, and one is outcome. Additionally, these developers, what they derived were principles or values of Agile. Now, if I just list them out on the screen, it doesn't make a lot of sense right away, or they seem, okay, where is this going? But if you really analyze each of them, you will notice that they fall under the three buckets that I described. It's people, process, or outcome. Now, let's look at each of them very quickly. On people, so what does the ideology of Agile believe? They say that your customer satisfaction should be centric to your process. There needs to be better collaboration within the team. The teams should be highly motivated, the ones developing the software. There is more emphasis on face-to-face conversation, and there is less micromanagement and giving more autonomy to the team, so they're self-organized. The process aspect, something that was missing from the waterfall, was being able to welcome change or being that dynamic. Maintaining a constant pace, meaning in waterfall, it so happens that the initial phases just go by in unnecessary documentation or unnecessary practices, and in the end, you're struggling to meet your deadlines. In Agile, they believe that you should maintain a constant pace so that you can deliver at a steady pace. Simplicity, which is the heart of Agile, and I think one of my favorite principles, because it just means let's tune out the noise and just get down to the core simple practices of developing quality software. And lastly, on processes, they believe you should review your work regularly, and there has to be a constant monitoring of everything. Well, in Agile, you want to bring about so many changes, right? If you're not monitoring, how do you really know if you're even making a change? And the third pillar, where Agile describes that there needs to be a change, is in the outcome. Let me give you a simple example how traditional teams usually measure the progress. Suppose a project is kickstarted, it's a 6 months project. For the first 3 months, no line of code has been written, and you just have done some documentation, but you tell your client 50% of the project is done. Honestly, your project status is at 0% because you've done nothing from a software development point of view, but you've just done some documentation. So in the Agile sense, what Agile prescribes is your progress should be linked to how much working software is ready, not the other bells and whistles that you count in your progress. And lastly, you should deliver a quality product, a working software. So broadly speaking, what are the characteristics of Agile, or what were the problems we saw and what did Agile try to solve? Agile is trying to make teams fast-paced by ways of working in iterations, and we'll look at more in detail in the following slides. It's trying to make you dynamic, which is ready to evolve, ready to accommodate late changes or changing requirements. There's an emphasis on face-to-face communication, so it's a customer-centric. You're trying to listen to your client. You want to know what they feel about your process. You want to tailor your product according to the way they want it. And there needs to be a feedback loop even within the teams. So very often this happens in traditional teams that everyone's working in silos. Everyone's disconnected. People don't know what the other team is doing. There may be better practices that you're not aware of that are happening under the same roof. So there needs to be better collaboration within the team. Now, this may seem a little technical, but again, and for some of you who may have had some background in Agile, there is still a big misconception that Agile is a methodology. That is incorrect to say because Agile is more of an ideology. If in the manifesto, it has put up values and principles. Agile doesn't tell you how to be Agile. Agile just tells you what is the guideline to live by. Solely because not all organizations are the same, right? So no two organizations would be able to be agile in the same way. What you see on the screen are actual methodologies that are the ones that define practices that help you be agile. And you will see Scrum is highlighted because that is one of the most popular methodologies that help software teams or even normal product teams be agile. Agile Scrum is widely adopted in the software sector in India and onshore. by famous companies such as Amazon, but even the banking and finance industry follows Agile Scrum. I personally have worked in Agile Scrum as well, so I think I'm best suited to talk about that one. But depending on your organization's need, you can pick up any one of the methodologies that suit your way of working, the way you deliver, and you can work towards being agile. I hope the pace is okay. Like Mona Lisa said earlier, that please feel free to leave your questions in the poll sections or the question section, and we will pick them up at the end of this. I wouldn't want to break the flow. All right. So Agile Scrum. The basic idea of Agile Scrum is when you have a big task, don't go the big bang approach. Don't go the waterfall approach where you start and then you end and then you give one big chunky product which may or may not even live up to the customer's expectation. You break it down into smaller iterations. And how this works is logically you think, okay, so I'm going from one iteration to the next and then to the next. But let's dive a little deeper and see what that really means. Each iteration is almost like a software product of its own that you develop and deliver to your client. So at the end of each iteration, you bring in your client and if you see the last step there, which is very crucial, it's the feedback. You develop a feedback mechanism from the client so that when you're starting your second iteration, the feedback from the first is almost treated like a new requirement, which could be correction, which could be a misunderstanding, or it could be that in the time that the first iteration ran, the client just changed their requirement. It can happen, right? They were not clear on their requirements and they made some changes. And you do this for a third iteration. You can immediately see that this is a healthier and better approach because your client is involved in the process and the client's fine tuning is looped into your overall development process. So the finished product is obviously going to be a higher quality and something that will lead to more customer satisfaction. So if I now simplify it again, traditional organizations take instructions, they work, and then they deliver a finished product, which may or may not live up to the client's expectation. In Agile Scrum, you take instructions, you work in a small chunk, you review it with the client, you work again, including the feedback, review, work, you continue this cycle until you deliver a finished product. You could still be working in the same timeline. It's not to say that Agile takes more time. For example, if in the first way of working, you have a 6 months deadline, you do it 6 months at a stretch. In Agile, you break that 6-month period into 6 1-month periods, and you continuously review your work with your client and you share. This way, the client is more integrated in your overall process. Now, like I said, Agile prescribes 3 areas of improvements, right? One is people, then there was process, and there is outcome. So let's see what exactly Agile Scrum asks of you and how you can implement these changes. And if I have someone in the tech space in the audience, try and see if your teams are aligned towards this process, the way of working. I would be interested to know your feedback in the questions or even on mail later. Now, if you remember this complex web diagram from one of the earlier slides, this was a traditional team, right? Agile team quite simply says you should have 3 distinct types of roles in a team. In an Agile team, you have something that's called a product owner, you have a scrum master, and you have a team. We will very quickly take a look at what each of their roles and responsibilities are. And also I have done a sort of a demonstration after this where each of their roles will be demonstrated taking an example of a hypothetical product. Now, your product owner is really the representative of the end user. So in your organization, the product owner represents the client, which is why naturally, after having discussions with the client, they're defining the features. They're defining what needs to go in the product, what doesn't need to go. They also set the target dates. They decide how to make the product profitable. They decide, okay, if there are 10 requirements, which one should hit the market ASAP? Because what is going to make the most amount of money and deliver most amount of value to my client? And the product owner is sort of like the gatekeeper between the client and the rest of the team, where when the team is ready with a deliverable, the product owner can take a call on whether that's acceptable or needs rework. Because naturally the product owner is dealing with your client, so they would have a clear understanding of whether it's up to the mark or not. Scrum Master. Now, this is, I think, a role that's often misunderstood because people think of it as a team lead role, but you will see it's quite different. And let's see how. Okay. So the Scrum Master is responsible to make sure that the team is productive, the team is taken care of, that they have what they need to do their best. Okay. So the Scrum Master is also the bridge between the product owner and the rest of your team. The Scrum Master maintains a block list. Quite simply, if your team has any blockers, the Scrum Master's highest priority is to make sure that he or she does whatever they can to resolve this and the team can move forward. And the Scrum Master shields from external interferences. Now, in large organizations, it's quite the case that you may be working in multiple projects. How do you prioritize your work? That often is the task of the Scrum Master, to make sure if you're working on a high priority task, you cannot be poached by some other team, or you're not disturbed by some other process. And the Scrum Master is the chairperson for the different types of meetings that happen in the Agile Scrum world. They're in red on the screen. We are going to explore them in detail. So we'll get there when we do. So we saw the product owner, we saw the Scrum Master. Now let's look at the team. Something, if you noticed in my traditional team structure, is there were a lot of roles defined. There was a developer, there was a tester, there's a business analyst, so on and so forth. Over here, when you see these 5 people standing on in front of you, do you see any name tag, or do you see any like sort of a specific tag that this one is a developer, this one is a tester? Not really. Now, the reason for that is not that we're doing away with these roles, but the expectation is that Agile teams are highly skilled, and one person can be cross-functional. So a person could be a developer and a business analyst, or a tester and a product manager, multiple skill sets, So you have a small team, they're cross-functional, and now this is where an Agile team is very different from a traditional team, and why I said the Scrum Master is not a manager. In traditional teams, there is a sort of a micromanagement. The manager assigns work to people that you need to deliver this by this time. An Agile team is usually given autonomy, where the whole pending work is put in front of them, and based on their skill set, they need to choose what they will work on. This also helps keep the team motivated because they have a sense of ownership, and also the best person who's fit for the job ends up delivering on it. They are also, the last point, if you see, they actively participate in all the meetings that the Scrum Master is the chairperson for. So this was the change on the people front that Agile Scrum prescribes, that Agile Scrum believes will help a team become agile. Like I said, I would like to hear some comments from the audience later in the questions or by mail on how your teams are organized. Do you follow an Agile team structure? Do you still work in the traditional sense? If not, I would highly recommend you to try out this Agile team structure, because I personally have worked in Agile teams and I cannot go back to the traditional way of working. This way, it pushes me to be at my best. I have a cross-functional. My specializations are in automation, but I also do test management. I have also done a little bit of business analysis. So it has made me highly skilled, and that makes me more valuable even within the organization. So if you now look at the overall way it's aligned, is sort of like this, right? There's almost like a feedback loop, right from the customer to the product owner. The product owner passes that on to the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is keeping your team motivated. Your team delivers on it, and the reverse of it, the status of the project is coordinated back to all the way to the customer. So if you see, it's just a cleaner way of organizing yourself, and that way your customer also has a single point of contact who is able to handle them in an efficient way. Now, we saw one pillar, which is the people. The next 2 pillars, they almost go hand in hand. So process and outcome. Overall, Agile Scrum prescribes that you need to have better collaboration in your processes. Like, people need to collaborate better throughout the process. You implement the change in small increments. Like we saw, we're calling them iterations, but in the Agile Scrum world, they're called sprints. Sprints is nothing but you have a big chunk of work to do. You break it down into smaller chunks, and in sprints of 1 week or 2 week, you deliver on those small items and you show it back to the client. In the Agile Scrum world, they believe that there needs to be less waste. So you need to optimize all your processes, automate as much as you can, as many manual activities as you can. And lastly, measure, analyze, and adjust. Measure all your processes, measure the performance of your products and your softwares, measure the quality, analyze and make adjustments and do better. Now, this is where it actually starts to get more in depth. Given the scope of this workshop, this is very introductory, so I am just touching the surface. I do take advanced workshops where I actually do a demo and go into each of these. But let me just keep it simple for now. And if anyone has any questions about specific areas, we can look into it. So Agile Scrum artifacts. Artifacts was introduced in the Agile Scrum way to sort of do away from the unnecessary documentation. There's functional requirement specifications, there's a product specification document, there are n number of documents which Agile Scrum feels is just not a waste of time, but is not the best use of time, which is why they have these sort of things to tackle that. In Agile Scrum, a product team should take the requirement from the user in almost like a story format. Like the user stories are the requirements of the users broken down into simple stories. Like what is the requirement? You compile all these individual stories into what's called the product backlog. Product backlog then becomes like the total product that you need to deliver. But we saw that Agile is not Big Bang, it's not waterfall. So you break it down into sprints. So each sprint, which is like a period of 1 to 2 weeks, has its own backlog. So you take from the bigger chunk of the product, you break it down, you say in the first sprint, I'm only going to do this much, and you work on that. The block list, like I mentioned, the Scrum Master does this. Any blocker that the team has, the Scrum Master makes a note of that and has to prioritize resolving that as soon as possible, so that there is nothing stopping your product team or development team from going ahead. And burn down charts is one of the many reporting mechanisms that is there in the Agile Scrum world, where the Scrum Master is just keeping track of what the progress of the project is, and that's relayed back to your product owner and can be sent again to your customer so that the customers are up to date on where you are. So this was the artifacts. Now, what are the ceremonies? Ceremonies is nothing but like the meetings that happen in the Agile world. Why do we have meetings? Because like you saw, Agile prescribes better collaboration. There needs to be more face-to-face communication. Your teams need to interact better. Don't work in silos. That's only possible if you somehow have like these almost mandatory meetings that need to happen, right? So there are 4 types of meetings that happen. Sprint planning happens at the beginning of a sprint, where you decide from the bigger chunk of the product, how much are we doing in this sprint. The daily Scrum meeting is nothing but a daily status update. Where are we with the progress? What are you working on? Do you have any blockers? Sprint review happens at the end of the sprint. When you're finished with the product, you can sort of review how did you do? Did you meet the client's expectations or not? And a retrospective meeting is nothing but before you move on to the next sprint, you identify what worked really well in the sprint, what could be better, and what can be done to sort of take this to the next level. Now, I understand this can get a little theoretical, and you have explored roles, you have explored like the people aspect, we've seen the process and outcome. So let's do a short demo with a series of animations to understand how all of this fits in together. And again, please feel free to compare this to your traditional setups, or you may be an Agile team. I would be more than happy to know if we have Agile teams as an audience on this, and if you can have discussions around this. But you can just see this is usually what Agile Scrum looks like, what Agile Scrum development looks like. You can compare it to where you're at in your organizations or in your personal projects. So let's bring back our Agile organization. So you have your product owner, Scrum Master, and team. And on the other hand, you have your customers. So your first meeting goes something like this. Your customer pitches the idea of the product that they want to your product owner. Over here, I've taken a popular example of an app called Instagram. We all probably use Instagram, or at least we know is the buzz in the Indian market, especially for now. So let's hypothetically see how a product like Instagram would be made using an agile, uh, you know, project, agile methodology. Sorry, I stand corrected. Agile way of working. So your customers communicate the idea of the product to your product owner in the form of stories, right? Like we said. So they create the stories. They say that, okay, in my product, I want to be able to take photos, take videos, message other users. And when my user base is built, I also want to be able to run advertising. That is my sort of revenue model. Now, this is being communicated to the product owner. This is the initial discussion. The product owner then takes this internal to their within the organization, and the first interactions with the Scrum Master. And like we said, all the user stories, when put together, become nothing but the product backlog. Now, the product backlog, if this was a big bang approach or if this was a waterfall approach, what they would do is they would go away for 9 months, 1 year, 2 years, how much your time they're going to take to build this entire product, and then they would go live. But we all know where the cutthroat market, there's so much competition, you cannot have so much downtime, and which is what Agile is doing, right? So you take the bigger backlog, you break it down into a sprint, you break the bigger chunk into a smaller chunk that's achievable faster, and you can start working on it. So you, from the product backlog, you cut it down to the sprint backlog. Also, now you will see something interesting. In the meantime, if your client comes back to you and says, hey, we told you about these 6 7 things that we wanted, now we want to add 2 more things to it. In a waterfall model where you're doing a big bang approach, it's almost impossible to accept this because you are not planned for it. But over here in Agile, it's okay to keep building the product backlog, because while this conversation is happening, your Scrum Master and the team have already started working on the sprint. The sprint, which can last anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks, the team has started working on it. And this is where the autonomy of the team is demonstrated, where depending on the skill sets, the team nominates, I will work on this feature, I will work on the other feature. And your Scrum Master, if you see, has not assigned anything. Your team has self-organized and they have taken up the work. So now, assuming this is the sprint that is going on, which can be a period of 1 week up to 4 weeks, every day they do a status check meeting, which is called the daily Scrum meeting. They may make use of boards like the one you see over there. They are called Kanban boards or progress boards, where overall it just helps you keep a track of how much is pending, what is in what phase is your process. The Scrum Master maintains a block list, like we said. If there's any blocker the team can share in this meeting, and the Scrum Master makes a note of that. And also a burn down chart. That visual there is supposed to represent a burn down chart, where it's keeping a track of, okay, I had to do 10 tasks, 2 are done, so only 8 to go. This happens on a daily basis. These meetings last anywhere between 15 minutes to half an hour, depending on the team size. But in Agile, it's prescribed to be like 15 minutes. Now, your Scrum Master communicates these metrics, like the burn down chart, but there are many more, and any blockers or any delays to the product owner on a regular basis. The product owner may optionally pass this on to the customer if they want to sort of keep them up to date with the progress. So this, again, if you noticed in the beginning, we said that there needs to be monitoring and reporting. It's being done this way. At the end of the sprint, which can be, again, like I said, 1 to 4 weeks, the team has come up with this product, a section of what the big product was. They've done the first chunk. This is reviewed internally first, and then the customers can be invited in to see, for them to give their feedback. And like we saw, all of this feedback plus whatever was remaining from the overall product backlog happens over the next sprint. So you would repeat whatever you just saw for another sprint. For the sake of the presentation, I'm skipping that in depth, but this is what at the end of sprint 2, you would have this phase, right? When you've taken the sprint 1 product, you've taken the sprint 2 product, which is what was remaining, plus the feedback that you got from the sprint 1, and then you go on to release the first version. How is this different from Big Bang? Right away, you can tell that the customers were involved at this point, which was at the end of sprint 1, and they were able to give certain changes which were attended to in sprint 2, and that's why the overall release or overall product that you ended up going live with is more tailored to the customer's requirements than what a waterfall product could have been. And during this time, when the scrum master and the team were busy doing their magic, your product owner could have been continuously talking to your client, and you may have had this new list of requirements that came in. What I mean to say is that this is a never-ending process. It's a continuous process that keeps going on. The phases keep, in fact, going in a loop until the product is either completely ready and it goes in a full maintenance mode, or it has reached its end of life, that a product was live for 10 years and now it's being discontinued. Then you would stop this process. All right. So just to check a time check, we are good. We have 11:40. We have 10 minutes roughly. Now, we have seen what Agile is. We've seen the areas that Agile says you can make changes. We saw a short demo of how an Agile team may go about developing a product using sprints. Let's look at some success stories. And this was there in the description of my, of the workshop as well. We're going to look at how America's Federal Bureau of Investigation saved on millions, and also it had become almost a matter of status whether they are able to deliver on a project or not using Agile. So a timeline of how this played out, and over the timeline you will see how Agile actually saved the FBI both money and their reputation, honestly. In 1995, FBI had an automated case system. It was a simple system which was just to digitize their records. There are tons of files, the criminal records, all the database had to be digitized. This in 1995 was using technology from the 70s. And when it was ready to use, honestly, the workforce just felt it was an out-of-date system. So the need for a new system came about. And in 2001, they proposed that in 3 years, with a budget of 380 million, we'll make a whole new system. The mistakes that were made there were they went out to contractors and they ended up getting different contractors and subcontractors to work on this project who are working in silos and who are developing a waterfall model sort of a project. Projection was 3 years, but unfortunately in 2005 they realized they're at a stage where they are nowhere, they're way off track, and they had to scrap this VCF system or virtual case file system altogether. But by then they had already spent $170 million. At this point in 2006, Project Sentinel was announced. Okay, you would think they have learned from their mistakes. They have realized that the waterfall way of working is not doing them any good. Working in silos is not doing them any good. They would have realized, but they made the same mistake again. So the director of FBI again got another set of contractors and unrelated people who are working in silos. They gave a projection that, okay, we will do it in 6 years in 4 phases with an additional budget of 450 million. Fast forward to 2010, the status is only 1.5 phases are done and almost 3/4 of the budget is spent. 421 million was spent. At this point, Congress had started asking questions that why is this happening? And they called for an external audit. The auditor's results were shocking. The auditor projected that at this rate, the FBI would need another 6 years and an additional $350 million to complete this project. In 2010, they had to scrap this completely because understand this is taxpayers' money that is being burned for a simple digitized record system. Now it became a matter of, like I said, repetition and also justifying the cost to Congress and to the public that why is this taking so long. So finally, they realized that they would have to scrap this waterfall way of working. In 2011, Robert Mueller, the director of FBI, went out to the market and hired 2 Agile specialists from Lehman Brothers because in the finance space or in the banking sector, Agile had actually started to prove really beneficial. So he hired 2 Agile specialists. The first change they made is from the 400 scattered contractors that they reduced to 40 full-time FBI software developers, and they almost started like a startup in the basement of the FBI called the Scrum Studio. Believe it or not, in 1 year, they were able to complete the development and they just spent 30 million. In another additional year of testing and all the other processes that go with it, in 2012, they went live. So they went live just in time to meet the original deadline, and they also completed it within budget. When you start to see the statistics of this, it will baffle you almost that in a total cost of 621 million, in their efforts of doing it through a waterfall or a big bang approach, they spent 591 million. But in just 5% of that cost, using an agile way, in 1 year, they delivered something that they couldn't for 10 years. Now, if you think about it, we've taken quite a close look at agile, and it's not rocket science. They're just simple steps or simple changes you can make in order to become more dynamic, more cost effective, and make the best use of your resources in terms of employees, infrastructure, and everything that goes into developing a product or a software. Some other success stories are very popular names that you would see on the screen, ranging from Amazon, which is the e-commerce giant, to streaming services like Netflix and YouTube, Spotify, or even our Indian players like Zomato and Swiggy. These have become massive giants in the Indian market, and they have built a business from the ground up using Agile. What the FBI case study shows and why it's prominently looked at, it's a very common case study that's looked at when you're seeing Agile success stories, because this was, again, if you see these companies, you would think Agile is a young companies game. It's a software game, that only young startups or new product companies can come up with it. But the FBI was a government organization, and they were able to reap the benefits of Agile, and which is why governments all around the world sort of took that as a nod that, okay, maybe we can make use of it. Maybe we have some benefits. And even the Indian government, in fact, has projects that they're using Agile to develop. And the next success story could very well be you. I hope that whatever you've picked up from on this, or whatever insights you've got from this presentation, helps you reflect how you can make slight changes in your organizations or even in your personal projects to sort of be more agile. And the benefits now should be clear, and have the presentation has hopefully made it evident that agile is the way to go. With that, I would like to start answering the questions, if there are any. And if you have any feedback, please feel free to share that as well.
Mr. Praneshan, there are questions.
Yeah. Okay, let me just pull up. Sure. Okay, what is the difference between Agile, Lean, Kanban? All right. So Agile, like I said, it's really sometimes confused with Lean and Kanban. So in Lean and Kanban or Scrum or Extreme Programming and all these other things that I showed on the screen, those are methodologies that sort of define ways in which you can be agile. Agile is the umbrella term, or it's the ideology that you should be dynamic, you should be fast, and you should be customer centric, right? Agile has no fixed steps on how you can be agile, because that would defeat the very idea of being agile. So to answer your question, agile is a umbrella term, or it's an ideology to achieve which you could use things like Lean and Kanban, which are methodologies which have defined steps that teams can use to be agile. When developing solutions for government where the client himself is not very clear of the requirements, would an agile approach stress timelines and costs? Your insights, please. Self is not clear of the requirements, would an agile approach stress timelines? Okay. If anything, I would think that it would buy you time, right? And one thing that I have noticed in my personal experience is when your client is not clear of the requirement, what works best is prototyping. Prototyping is you being able to show something and then going off of that and then ideating that, okay, no, this is not what I had in mind. Maybe this is my requirement. In waterfall, that's next to impossible. Also, with what your question is, the scope of delay is there more on the waterfall front. because you're technically waiting for the complete set of requirements before you start something. In Agile, even if you have a hint of what the client wants, you can probably do one sprint to prototype, show them, and then they could probably give you better requirements. So I would assume that Agile is a better way of handling a client with uncertain requirements than waterfall. Would the recording be available? I believe so. Mona Lisa, I guess that one's for you.
Yes, Mr. Pranesh, and I have replied to that.
Okay, thank you. What are industry certifications that is available for each of these roles? So there are organizations like Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org which have certifications, and in fact they certify you in each of those areas. If you saw the three roles, there is product owner, there is Scrum Master, there's developer. You have Scrum certifications for each of them. You have certifications in other disciplines of Agile as well, Agile leadership. So definitely there are certifications available, and they're offered by not one body, there are multiple organizations that offer their own flavor of a certification, and each of their scope is different. So depending on what you're trying to achieve from that certification, you should go for the one that suits you best. And then depending on the role as well, suppose you're a senior member and you're a product owner, you would rather go for the product owner certification over maybe a Scrum Master, for example, right? So there are quite a number of certifications available in the market, and there is a good weightage to them. So if especially you look up any requirements of new roles that come up within tech companies or even product companies, there's a good weightage given to clients who or candidates who have Agile certifications. If and just to add on to that, if you're interested, I can share some of these links in a mail where I can actually link you to the companies and organizations that do issue these certifications. How do we make the transition from traditional to Agile with minimum disruptions in the organizations? Yeah, that's a very good question, Ashok. I personally have worked on a transformation project, and first and foremost, yes, it is not easy because you can't disrupt the service, your client, especially if it's a critical process that's happening. Transformation projects should be looked at as a one-time investment where upfront there will be cost because your teams are supporting two things in parallel: the traditional project that's ongoing and the maintenance that's required there, whereas and at the same time a whole new process that you're probably aligning towards Agile. So transition as such is firstly the mindset needs to change. Your team needs to be willing to move away from this way of thinking of just I'm a singular role, I am just a developer, I'm just a tester. uh, they should be open to receiving feedback from the client. So the biggest challenge to transitioning into an Agile environment is the mindset. Most clients or most teams aren't ready to sort of have that level of interaction with the client or to make changes rapidly. So first, change the mindset. Second, understand that it's a one-time investment, or it's you are investing in a better way of working. So once you complete your transformation over a period of maybe 1 year, 2 years, depending on the scope of your project, you will then reach a speed that is unparalleled. To give you a personal example, I used to work in a project that did 12 releases a year because of the nature of working. We were a waterfall project. We went on to releasing thrice a week because it took 3 years to get to that stage, but once we transitioned, it was the speed and the level of uh, you know customer centric design that we reached was unparalleled. Hello, any certificate for this? I think it's similar to the certification questions. Again, I will share links. Mona Lisa can probably help me with the mailing list, and I will share links of available certifications in the market. But I would request you, before you dive into certifications, try and implement this in your organizations or your personal projects. If you approach this purely from a theoretical way, other than maybe yes, you might secure the certification, but if you are to start an Agile team, you won't know how to go about it because a lot of it is nuanced. I personally was lucky enough to join a team which was just doing the transition, like I mentioned, from traditional to Agile. And I got to see every aspect of it. I got to see the challenges, the limitations. I got to see what works best. And again, Agile is an ideology. Each team has the freedom to choose whatever best practices work for them to be Agile. And that level of customization, no certification can teach you first. So first practice this in your existing setups and teams. And then when you do the certification, you will realize that a lot of it is already practiced and easy to understand rather than pure theoretical approach towards Agile. Smriti says, good presentation, quite informative. Thank you so much, Smriti. I really appreciate that. If you would like, I would share my details. I would also like more detailed feedback because I would not be practicing Agile if I don't take feedback, right? I just said that you need to have more feedback and you need to be able to adjust and make changes. So I would love to hear from all of you. I'll share my email details. Please feel free to leave me feedback.
Mr. Praneshan?
Yes.
Just one question. Actually, this Igli, okay, she has left. Never mind. Actually, the certificate which Igli was asking was from the company. I'm not sure if she has attended previously also. So I just wanted you to elaborate that the certification might be the paid one, right?
Yes. So I think if the question was more about whether do you get a certificate for attending this is a very introductory session, I would say. So there's not much to certify here. This is something, it's more of a good to know sort of a session. Certifications are paid certifications that companies like Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org offer, for which you have to pass an assessment as well. And there's quite a lot of preparation that's required for it. So that is different. Those certifications are different.
Thank you.
All right. This was amazing. Sunita, thank you so much. It was amazing. I wish we could do an interactive session as well. I would love to interact with you. My sessions are in person, so there's more communication. This was a first for me as well, doing a one-sided session, but it's good to interact with you in the questions.
If anybody has any questions for Mr. Praneshan, I would request them to write it in the questions tab, please.
I'm also active on LinkedIn. So if after this session, if you want, we can connect over LinkedIn as well. Thanks for a wonderful session. Thanks, Ashok. Thank you for the feedback.
I don't think so. There are any questions, I think, Mr. Praneshan.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a wonderful webinar.
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Thank you, everybody. I think we're ending just on time.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar. Have a nice day.